Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. So what I want to start by talking about today is the sort of growing community. It's, for many of you, if this is your first time coming to HashiConf, it might not be sort of, as sort of impressive as it is for me kind of looking out and seeing the growth here. But the first HashiConf we ever held was about 4 years ago, right around the same time in Portland. And it was, at that time we were thinking, could we even get maybe 150 people in a room to come and talk about the HashiCorp tools? We were surprised then. We got a little bit more than 150. We got to about 300 or so. And for us, we thought that was sort of, a massive event to be hosting. Flash forward a year, and we had our second ever HashiConf, at that time in Napa. Got a little bit bigger. We went to 500 people. For those who were there last year, we held one in Austin at 800 people. And today, around us, we have 1,200 people. So it's been definitely exciting for us, at least. And I know for many of the faces here, I've seen a few people that I've seen at all 4 of the HashiConf. So it's exciting for us to see sort of the growing community and all the new faces that are joining us. As part of that, one of our goals has always been, how do we make these events more inclusive? Right? How do we bring new faces, new people, new communities in to join us for these HashiCorp events? And so a program that we launched earlier this year at Hashi Days Amsterdam was our diversity scholarship. Really looking at how do we find folks that are interested in learning, interested in sharing their points of views, but for whatever reasons haven't traditionally been able to attend our events or other similar industry events. So this is something we rolled out for Amsterdam, really looking at how do we find folks and sponsor them to come and join us so that we can share new perspectives, new views. So what I'd really encourage is, while you're here at HashiConf, please use this as an opportunity to meet new friends, meet new people, share ideas, share your knowledge. Because for everything you know, there's someone here that doesn't, and vice versa. And so when we talk about people joining us from all around the world, I think where you really, really get to see that sort of growth of the community is when you look at the HashiCorp user groups, right? And it's kind of incredible. We started these maybe 2 years ago, and today they're now hosted in 38 countries, 74 cities, and over 15,000 members. So it's definitely fair for us to say that it is a truly global community that is joining us here today. And when we talk about what's driving all of this, I think ultimately it comes down to adoption of the tools. That's why we're all here, is we're users of these tools, or we're here to learn about them and find out ways that they can help solve our problems. And so I think it's an incredible testament to the adoption of the underlying tools. In the last just 12 months, across the portfolio of tools, there's been 43,000 commits. I also fell out of my chair when I first saw this. And of those, I think 16,000 are to Terraform providers alone. And so those 43,000 commits have been combined into a total of 80 releases across the different tool sets. Right? These are bug fixes, these are security patches, these are new features, and collectively, these are what's driving the user adoption as we're solving new problems and making these tools easier to use and more mature. Where I think you really start to see the sort of growing adoption is when we talk about sort of the download metrics. Right? Last year, we shared at this time that we'd done about 22 million downloads over the last 12 months from HashiConf. Now, if we look back over the last 12 months, that's more than doubled to 45 million downloads across the tool set. And this is not a single tool that's driving all of these downloads. This is sort of combined, all of the tools are sort of doing the sort of equal kind of growth with each other. Consul is the largest install base. It has the sort of largest downloads, but Nomad is also the fastest growing. So you're seeing sort of growth across the entire portfolio. To make all of that possible, as you might imagine, these tools don't maintain themselves. There's been sort of a growing growing employee base at HashiCorp to make all this possible. So last year, we were about 130 people strong. Today, we're about 320 people strong. So a lot of new faces here. You'll see them all wearing sort of colored HashiCorp shirts with the logo. So if you have specific questions about any of the products, any of the tools, features, things like that, please seek out the folks in the colored shirts. The colors match people's product expertise as well. What's been making this possible, this growth for us over the last year, has really been our growing set of customers. Right? This is just some of the logos, some of the names of people who are engaged with us commercially. And I think the sort of challenge for us over the last few years has been to figure out, is there a way that we can build a commercial model that allows us to continue to innovate on the open source tools, build new features, drive innovation in that space, but still make sure that the company is long-term sustainable, right? How do we find that balance of being a business that meets payroll, but also continue to invest in open source? And we feel like over the last 12, 18 months, we've sort of found that balance, where we have folks that are engaging with us and working with us on a commercial basis, but that we're adding more to the open source than we've ever done before. And this is a wide range of folks. It's everyone from financials to high tech to healthcare to insurance to media companies and much more. So today we feel very confident in the company health and are excited to be able to continue our mission. So over the next 2 days, I encourage you to go to as many of the sessions as possible. This is just some of the folks and companies that are represented and will be speaking here. And you're going to hear from a whole broad range of folks. You're going to talk to startups at the very cutting edge, showing us new use cases and new ways of using these tools, all the way up to the largest organizations that are trying to change the way thousands of applications are delivered across tens of thousands of machines. So I really encourage you, go to as many of the sessions as you can. Also use the hallway track as an opportunity to learn. There's a lot of good stuff out there, but make sure you spend some time and learn from all these folks. So when we talk about sort of what's driving HashiCorp, right, what we sort of tie ourselves to and how we see kind of the company's inception map to is really cloud computing, right? It's sort of inseparable, the sort of rise of our tools and kind of HashiCorp's mission itself with the adoption of cloud. And in our view, there's this large replatforming taking place, right? As an industry, we're moving away from purely our private data center to some mix of private data centers plus public clouds, or if we're sort of a little bit newer school and we don't have, we have the luxury of not having legacy, we might be born in the public cloud. So there's this sort of first platform transition that's taking place, but at the same time, there's this process shift where a lot of organizations are saying, how do I go faster? How do I deliver in a more agile way? And so with this is a shift away from sort of the more manual ITIL, file a ticket and wait, to more self-service, automation, DevOps type mentality of how we deliver. And in our view, this combination of both the replatforming that's taking place to public cloud, plus the entire process shift towards a more agile self-service model affects all 4 layers of the infrastructure. It's not a minor tweak that we can just do by changing one tool or one process. It kind of touches the whole thing. And so that's our focus as a company, right? And when we talk about each of the layers, the first one for us is really thinking about how do our operators provision infrastructure now, right? We want to have infrastructure across many different providers, some of which are infrastructure as a service, some of which are platform as a service, some of which are software as a service. And we really want to do this in an infrastructure as code way. We want to get away from manually pointing and clicking or filing a ticket. We want to be able to define what the infrastructure looks like at every layer and then automate it across a diverse set of platforms. So our big focus here is really Terraform with that automation. The next big focus for us is how do we secure all of this, right? Historically, what we really depended on was we wrapped our data center in the 4 walls. We brought everything over the drawbridge, and it was sort of a castle and moat approach to security, right? As long as the castle wall was tall enough and our sort of drawbridge secure enough, the inside was safe. And I think we're seeing a shift away from that. We're starting to acknowledge that actually threats can get inside. There are software bugs. Maybe there's malicious insiders. How do we think about securing the inside of our castle as well? So here our big focus is Vault. How do we think about a first-class approach to secret management, centralizing and governing access to secrets? How do we protect sensitive data? How do we then do this in a way that we're not assuming trust of the underlying network? The next problem we look at is how do we deploy all these applications, right? We're going to have some set of containerized apps, some set of legacy mixed workload applications, and we want to be able to run these things across many different environments. And here the focus is Nomad. How do we provide a self-service experience, both for developers who want to deploy and manage apps, but also for our operators who are managing the infrastructure? And we want to do this across a diverse range of workloads, so containerized, non-containerized, Windows, Linux, the whole gamut. And how do we do this in a way that's high performance so that we can scale from a cluster of a few nodes and a few applications to clusters of tens of thousands of nodes and thousands of applications? The final challenge is how do we wire this all together, right? So great, we have our whole mix of infrastructure. How does it all discover and talk to one another? And here where our focus is console as a service mesh. What we want to be able to do is enable all these generations of technology to discover one another, route to one another, encrypt traffic between services, and segment who's allowed to talk to who. So together, these kind of form the HashiCorp suite. And that's how we think about it. It's a suite of different tools. It's not meant to be a single monolithic platform, right? Each of these tools has a very specific problem focus, right? Whether it's provisioning, whether it's security. And the goal is to make it easy to adopt and pick off one problem at a time. And so when we talk about the tools, it's a big focus on accessibility. So part of that is having a scope that's clean and well-defined. Part of that is making the tools easy to use. But part of that is making it easy to learn. Right? And that's a whole gamut from beginner introductions, documentation, guides, webinars, there are training sessions. There's a whole set of investments we make in accessibility of the tooling themselves. And so we're super excited today to share sort of the next step of that, which is a new learning platform we've been working on. So we just launched this. This is what we're calling HashiCorp Learn. And it's really looking at how do we provide content that's tailored to practitioners to help educate these tools, about these tools. And so when we talk about the Learn platform, it's very, very much practitioner focused, and it's meant to be sort of a self-guided, go at your own pace, right? So you can come in at any time, work around your own schedule, and work through an iterative set of courses that range from, beginner, I don't know what Vault is, through intermediate all the way to advanced use cases. And the goal of this is that it's just free, it's open source, you can come in and learn it. Our goal is to make the tools as accessible as possible. So when we talk about kind of what the focus of the platform is over time, today it's really just looking at what's the core product, the main use cases, how do we educate you on getting 0 to 60, right? Getting some value out of tooling like Vault. But over time, we want to add additional use cases, additional specific features, sort of sidetracks, because all of our tools, we like to describe them sort of like Microsoft Excel. Right? Yes, you could use it to make a recipe, you can make a to-do list, but you could also do your financial planning for a Fortune 500, right? It's sort of that whole gamut. So where do you start, right? The way you teach someone to make a to-do list is a little different than you do for a recipe. And so over time, the goal is how do we add these different kind of use cases into this as different sets of modules so you can come in and learn both the sort of depth of the tool, but also the full breadth of them as well. So today, you can go visit the platform. Vault is available and has sort of a rich set of getting started content, as well as some of these additional sidetracks. Terraform, Console, and Nomad will all be available as well by the time we get to the end of the year. So to check this out, just go to learn.hashicorp.com. And it's free. You don't need to sign in. You can just get started right away and dive into learning more about Vault.